Hello everyone and welcome to Season 7, Episode 39 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in CHIKARA history with match number 12 on our list, which is the Trios match between the Kings of Wrestling unit of Claudio, Castagnoli, Icarus, and Gran Akuma, and the team of Mike Quackenbush, ShaneSaw, and Jigsaw from the CHIKARA Young Lions Cup 4 and Night 3 event held on June the 25th of 2006. I've said a lot so far on this season. My favorite CHIKARA period was the reign of the Kings of Wrestling throughout 2005 and 2006, full of amazing tag matches, trios matches, and Atomicos matches, and this one is one of my personal favorites. It's probably most remembered for its post-match, but the match itself is fantastic. We are knee-deep in the feud between Icarus and Jigsaw that would ultimately culminate in a mask versus hair mask between them. This was the month before the final build leading up to that match. This was a trios match where both of these guys wanted to rip each other's heads off. Watching this one back, there is a pre-match promo from the Kings of Wrestling group where Icarus quotes the 529,600 minutes song from Rent, which was just ridiculous watching back on it, but pretty funny. And he talks about over the course of the year, titles won, Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli being the first CHIKARA tag team champions, the Campeonatos de Parejas, careers ended, Icarus having ended the careers of Mr. Zero and Jolly Roger. And what does, Jigsaw and his crew have to show except losses and defeats over the course of the past year? So this match really is centered around that grudge, and it feels like a true grudge match, but that's not to take away from some of the absolutely incredible action that this match has. We start off hot and heavy, the Technicos come out, Jigsaw tries to rush right into the ring. Thankfully, cooler heads prevail as he realizes that he's at a numbers disadvantage as the Kings hold the ring. And we end up with ShaneSaw and Gran Akuma starting this match instead. This is less than a year removed before their mask versus mask match, where ShaneSaw ultimately beat Gran Akuma. So we start this match out with a grudge anyways, and very quickly Gran Akuma bails when he realizes that, ShaneSaw has his number and took his mask. So great little foreshadowing of the mask versus hair challenge that would come at the end of this match. We get, I've talked about before, Jigsaw and Claudio Castagnoli having fantastic chemistry with each other. That's on display in this match. They get an early start. Jigsaw is great, just only wanting Icarus, pointing at Icarus, daring him to come in and fight him. There's a lot of really great moments where Icarus will kind of try to come in and try to cheap shot Jigsaw and, do a double team, but Jigsaw would weather that storm and end up turning, a double team or a triple team into offense that would always end up with him, hitting Icarus, be it kicking him or taking him over with a head scissors or whatever. Eventually, though, this leads into heat on Jigsaw, where he goes for a crossbody onto all three of his opponents. They catch him. He manages to somehow turn that into an arm drag on Claudio, but finally he leaves himself exposed to an Icarus back senton, and the Kings of Wrestling unit take over. They start to get that heat on him. Mike Quackenbush and Claudio Castagnoli, man, two of the best chemistry that I think opponents have ever had, especially on the independent circuit. The sequences that these two do constantly blow minds. And in this match, this isn't remembered as one of those key or those pivotal Quack and Claudio matches that they had, like the TPIO 6 match or the match on Ring of Honor pay-per-view, or, Negative Balance, or even, Best of the Best, 5, or any of those matches. But my gosh, some of the sequences they do in this match are completely unreal. There's a moment where Quack ends up getting Claudio to the floor after frustrating him and flying and spinning all over the place. And Quack, teases that he's going to do a dive, and Claudio kind of wraps himself around the ring post to get to the other side. And in mid, spaceman dive attempt, Quackenbush ends up jumping to the perpendicular set of ropes and then hits a somersault plancha onto Claudio. And it was just so effortless and so amazing and just thrown out there like it was nothing. And, Mike Quackenbush, obviously, the lucha influence, and, I guess you'd consider him a high flyer. I always kind of considered him more of a technical wrestler, I guess. But That dive was so beautiful and so effortless. And like you have guys, out there on the scene right now, like Commander, who like does these amazing, rope running tricks and dive evasions and switching from rope to rope and everything like that. And, I'm not going to say this dive was, Commander-esque, but like just, it's crazy to see that this was, 17 years ago. And, Mike Quackenbush just in the, opening 5 minutes of a match pulls out a dive like that. It's absolutely nutty. And shows, just how far ahead of his time he was on a lot of stuff. We end up getting, great heat on Jigsaw, all of these great triple teams on him. Then eventually, Shane Storm gets in and we get heat on him, and eventually Quack gets in and we get heat on him. And that's how all of these Kings of Wrestling matches tend to go. The faces get lots of high-octane offense at the start. They end up getting slowed down, cut off, double team, triple team, quadruple teamed, and then we run through a heat sequence on pretty much every individual in the match, ultimately building, to a big hot tag for the faces. So it's funny because, these are our lucha influence style matches, but they also have those elements of a Southern tag in them too, which is kind of cool. But we do end up getting the big moments. Shane and Quack end up getting, Akuma and Claudio out to the floor, and they both hit dives, and that finally gives us the big showdown between Icarus and Jigsaw rather. It doesn't last long. This match completely disintegrates into near falls and big moves galore. Everybody hitting their signature offense, the air raid crash from Storm, and the El Mary water slide from Claudio, and the straightjacket brainbuster from Jigsaw, and so on and so forth. Gran Akuma hits probably the best 450 splash of his career in this match. He's someone that, used the 450 pretty regularly, and a lot of times it would, unfortunately for his opponent, result in his opponent taking 2 knees to the chest or the sternum. But here he hits it, absolutely beautifully. We get big, triple team sequences. There's a moment where Akuma's up on the top, and Quackenbush hits him with the shote, and Jigsaw hits the leap of faith, standing Rana, off the buckles, and then Shane blasts him with that Japanese move, but it's broken up. And then, not to be outdone, the Kings of Wrestling unit, they hit a Doomsday European uppercut from Claudio, and then Akuma brings, I believe it was Jigsaw, down with a powerbomb, and as he's coming down with the powerbomb, Icarus flies in there and hits a back cracker or a lung blower or whatever you want to call it. Just really, really, really good stuff and lots of big moves. I've talked about it before. Jigsaw just gets destroyed with a Swiss death from Claudio. Probably takes that move consistently better than any other opponent Claudio's ever had. We get another just wild Quack and Claudio sequence that leads to La Mystica from Quack with like a whole bunch of rotations on it for a really, really close near fall. And then we get our finish, which kind of comes a little bit out of nowhere, but it totally works in this match and plays into this super hot post match. So Jig and Icarus, they counter, all of their finishing moves and whatnot, the pedigree and the Jig and Tonic and everything like that. And eventually Icarus ends up pulling Jigsaw's mask off, completely unmasking him just for a second. Of course, Shane Storm runs in there and covers up his mask with a t-shirt. But in CHIKARA, under Lucha rules, that is enough for disqualification. But normally a DQ finish would put a damper on a match, but here it works because we get a crazy post-match where we end up getting challenges thrown out for a mask versus hair mask. Match, Icarus tries to bail, after kind of baiting Jigsaw into the challenge, basically saying, I got your mask, I've got what I want. That leads to a huge pull-apart brawl. It brings out the whole roster. Jigsaw hits a big dive onto everybody at ringside. And, ultimately, this chaos cannot be controlled. Leonard F. Chikarison's out there, the director of fun, trying to get control. And so he ends up pitching it to the big screen for a message from the CHIKARA commissioner. And for years, it had been rumored, it had been joked about that the commissioner of CHIKARA was Bob Saget. And never in our wildest dreams did we ever expect what we get on that fateful night in June of 2006 in Philadelphia on the big screen. It was a clearly pre-recorded message, but that's okay, from Bob Saget himself, announcing the mask versus hair mask between Jig and Icarus for Hellertown the following month in July of 2006. Completely unexpected, got a lot of buzz at the time. One of my personal favorite CHIKARA moments. I love Bob Saget. I was a Full House fan as a kid growing up. I'm in that age bracket. Loved his comedy later on. Rest in peace, Bob Saget, and thank you so much for providing this great moment for Chikara fans everywhere. But totally great, genuine surprise. Bryce Remsburg is losing his mind at ringside. Larry Sweeney's on commentary, being like, "Did anybody know that was going to happen?" Like that blew him away. Just a really, really fun moment that I will always fondly remember and look back on. And, after the video plays, Icarus yelling, "Damn you, Bob Saget," in one of the best Chikara moments ever. This match is so much fun. It's got a great, memorable post-match. But the match itself, it's great. It has great heat throughout it. Great sequences. Like I said, the Claudio and Quack stuff in this match is absolutely mind-blowing. Carries forward that great grudge of Jigsaw and Icarus, and I feel like this is a match that, in the grand scheme of things, is largely forgotten about, but it is so much fun. It's one of my favorite trios matches that Chikara ever did, and I was happy to talk about it on today's video. You can watch it, of course, at independentwrestling.tv. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, and please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.